I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Welcome to the South River Board of Education regular meeting of Thursday, September 26, 2024. In compliance with the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231, Laws of 1975 of the State of New Jersey, adequate notice of this meeting of the South River Board of Education was provided in the following manner. On January 17, 2024, the notice was delivered to the office of the South River Borough Clerk and posted at the Board of Education Administration Building. On January 17, 2024, the notice was faxed, mailed to the following newspapers: Home News Tribune, the Star Ledger. And on January 17, 2024, the notice was posted at the South River Borough Clerk's office. Mr. Rosa, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Bazak.
Here.
Mr. Budson.
Here.
Mrs. Bush.
Here.
Mrs. Byrne.
Here.
Mrs. Lau.
Here.
Mr. Nielsen.
Here.
Mrs. Sadowski.
Here.
Mrs. Young Yao.
Ms. Young Yao has been excused.
Mrs. Urbanik.
Here.
Please forgive me, I don't say your name correctly. Is it Calvin Samadi? Calvin? Calvin Samadi? Samidi? Okay, Calvin Samidi.
All right.
You have a quorum.
All right, thank you. At this time, we do have our first item on the agenda, and that would be the minutes. And Mr. Rosa.
On the agenda today, we have the regular meeting minutes for August 19th.
Board members, what is your pleasure on the minutes?
Move the reading of the minutes into record.
Motion by Vice President Nielsen. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Second by Ms. Lowe. If there are any questions, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes. Next on the agenda, Mr. Rosa, we have our use of facilities.
So on the agenda tonight, we have number 1606 through 1620.
Board members, what is your pleasure on the use of facilities?
Move the use of facilities in accordance with board policies.
We have a motion by Vice President Nielsen. Is there a second for that?
Second.
Second by Ms. Sadowski. Seeing no questions or comments, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The use of facilities passes. We have our financial report by Ms. Lowe.
Thank you very much. Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby certifies that it is in receipt of the financial report, which indicates that no major account has been overexpended and that sufficient funds are available to meet the district's financial obligations for the remainder of the fiscal year. The Finance Committee recommends that the reports of the Board Secretary and the Treasurer of School Monies for June 2024 be approved, and I so move.
Thank you. We have a motion by Ms.
Second.
Lowe and a second by Vice President Nielsen. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The financial report carries. At this time, we're going to turn the meeting over to our Superintendent of Schools for her monthly report. Dr. Zurcher, please.
Thank you, Mrs. Urbanik. I'd like to begin with the start of school. We are off to a great start. At this point, we have held all of our back-to-school nights, and our parents have been in our schools, have met with their children's teachers, and really had an idea of what the school year will be like. Our ELC is officially open. Our high school annex is also open, our weight room, our middle school courtyard, and throughout the entire district, you're going to see many updates for the new school year. So we're very excited to continue to share those with our students and our families as they visit our schools. We're also beginning the school year with some anti-bullying initiatives and assemblies. We just had one very successful assembly at the elementary school, and all of our other schools will be following up with many activities as well as assemblies. But we definitely know that just assembling and seeing presentations is not sufficient, And so our administrators, our teachers are really working to embed several programs for social emotional learning within the instructional program so that students are exposed to these concepts throughout the school year. Our high school lunchroom clubs are up and running. Our high school had a club fair where students had the opportunity to walk by tables with information about those clubs and really have the opportunity to learn more about how they can get involved in our school. A full list of our clubs and their descriptions are available on the high school's website. And we also are off to a good start when it comes to our help and access period. This is available to students as needed in order to get support, visit with a teacher, have some extra time to complete assignments and work. So we encourage our teachers to really work with our students to make the most of that time. We've started something new for the primary school and the ELC this year, which is called our school-wide virtual read-alouds. There's a ton of research that supports the concept of reading to children on a regular basis. We know many of our parents do that with children at home, but we also feel it's important to have those opportunities here at school. And so therefore, at both the primary and the ELC and the elementary school, sorry, let me add that as well, what our principals are doing is they are doing a school-wide read-aloud. They do so virtually. So students log on from their classroom, but they can hear stories and they are read to and can follow along with stories all at the same time. Therefore, sharing a story together, but also being exposed to literature and to those read-alouds. So that's exciting for this year as well, and our students seem to really enjoy that. They've already had several of those read-alouds throughout the year. So we're excited about those. There are also several reports from each of our departments included in my monthly superintendent reports. And I want to take the opportunity to remind our community that the superintendent reports and all of those monthly reports from our departments are included and uploaded to our website.
Thank you.
Right after the board meeting. So please be sure, if you can't attend a board meeting or you don't have the opportunity to watch the video, please go to our district website, pull up the superintendent reports found on the superintendent's page, and you'll have some good access to the latest information from all of our departments. The second part of my report tonight, we are devoting to a presentation. This is the district data presentation. We had part 1 last month. This will be part 2, and it will be presented by our assistant superintendent, Dr. Joseph Trevisano. This presentation will also be posted after tonight for parents to view at their convenience.
I was going to say welcome.
Hello.
That doesn't work. So,
Told you.
good evening. See if I did this right. Good. All right. So, as Dr. Zurcher mentioned, part 2 in August, we did get one. The mic? Yes, sir.
Now it's on, Johnny. Wait, didn't he
See
just
this?
say he had it all under control, right? All about here?
So do I.
You sing first?
No.
Yeah.
That's an easy one. All right, so anyway, part 1 you had in August was the NJGPA AP data, and then you also had the access data presented by Mrs. Colon. This is the second part of this, the New Jersey Student Learning Assessment data. I did combine some things in there because there was some other data analysis that I did conduct, and it is typically comprehensive at this point, so I'm just going to go through some slides for you. As Dr. Zurcher mentioned, this will be loaded onto the district website as of tomorrow, so any of the data that is really, really, really small on that screen, you'll be able to see and blow up on your computer screen for any piece of demographic data or program data. So as always, I put a slide on the presentation that outlines what the New Jersey Student Learning Assessments are. There are 3 tests that we evaluate. One is English Language Arts, one is mathematics, one is in science. They're given to our students based on grade level. Mathematics test is actually based on their grade 3 through 8 course, and then at the high school level, it's based on their course, not their grade. So in theory, we do have freshmen to take the geometry exam, we have sophomores to take the Algebra 2 exam. So there are some skewed data here, and we don't have, like 32 sophomores. It's just the students that are taking the geometry exam. So overall summary by school, I'd like to go through that. We'll do English Language Arts first, then we'll do the math, and then we'll go through the science. This is the number of students that scored in particular bands, and we did it as a level 1 and 2. Your level 3 is approaching expectations. And some of the data that we actually have internally not only has us approaching the expectations, but we actually have lists of students that we call bubble students. And these bubble students are significantly closer to moving to a level 4 or 5. So we are in data teams examining some of those students and some of the subdomains that the state provides us. But you'll notice our percentages and the number of students that test in the elementary, the middle, and the high school. Again, we're looking at the levels 4 and 5. Those are our passing levels. The next slide really breaks down.
It's shown mid-20s or so, low 30s. Is that typical in most schools?
This is typical, this is where we've been. I can't speak to other schools. I don't evaluate other schools. We only compare. Right, well, I don't compare other schools. Each school does their own analysis based on state numbers. The state percentages. So the state provides us percentages.
Well, the grading exam provides.
Yes, yes, okay. So, the next slide in language arts really breaks it down a little bit more by grade. As I mentioned, the tests are given for students in grades 3 through 8 and then high school. The only test that's given in language arts, the only grade that's assessed in language arts is grade 9 on the New Jersey Student Learning Assessment. Again, these are identified by state percentages as compared to district percentages for all 5 grade bands. Some of your percentages, and I did have a little caveat on the bottom of this, for those of you who may be adding, it doesn't add up to 100%, it may be 99, 98, maybe 102, because we round some of the numbers in the data. Again, this is what was provided to us, excuse me, based on the results provided by Pearson. So these are your individual grade band results. The next 3 slides will be dedicated more so to demographic breakdown, program breakdown, and breakdown of achievement by gender. There's a lot of data here, as there always is, and it's really, really small, so I'm not going to necessarily take a lot of time going through that. It is available. Please ask questions. If you have questions on that, contact me, and I'm happy to go through. Again, it is comparison from your percent in 2003 to 2004. It's by grade band, and then it breaks it down by demographics by percentages. So the first one is by race. The second one is by program meaning free and reduced, or 504, or multilingual learners, special education, gen ed, all students. By grade band and by your percentages. If there are little dashes in there, that means that no student, or actually there's less than 10 students, so we're not allowed to necessarily put in percentages or numbers because those are identifiable characteristics. So any number that's on here where there's a dash or you have less than 10 denotes data that has less than 10 students, and we're not allowed to publish that data. Again, there is a possibility of identifying students. The next slide is again by gender, male, female, and all students on their achievement level. We move on to the next one. It is overall summary of New Jersey Student Learning Assessments through mathematics. These numbers are a little bit skewed. I just want to let you know that the middle school and the high school numbers are skewed slightly. You'll see that on a further slide. Last year, the data was reported to us in the middle school, whereby the middle school students that took Algebra 1 were reported in the high school. So therefore, the percentages, and you'll see that will be on a further slide, will be significantly different. It's not that 22% dropped from the 4 and 5. It's where they were reported last year as compared to this year. We all found that out when the data was presented to us. So it's not necessarily what it's looking like for your Algebra 1 students from middle school were now included in the middle school numbers. This again is by grade band, and what I said here, this Algebra 1 reporting with 213 students, this Algebra 1 is a combination of middle school and high school, and the geometry represents any freshman that is in a geometry class. We do not assess on student learning standards anybody above a freshman, as the state does not require us to assess anybody above a freshman.
This answers the question that I asked.
This is your state, and yes, this is the same as language arts, the state and the district. Grade 8 exam here does not include students in grade 8 to the Algebra 1, as I mentioned, that's combined. And again, percentages may not add up to 100% because we round them. The next three slides are going to be very comparable to the language arts slides. The first one is description by race. We'll note what's all included by grade band. The second slide is also by program. Again, your free and reduced 504, multi-language learners, special ed, gen ed, and all students. The same dashes and the same qualifications apply for students, for reporting groups that are less than 10 students. They're not identifiable, so we do not include their data. And then the final one is by gender as well. Like I said, I'm going to qualify this a few times. Tomorrow morning when I report to work, I'm going to post this PowerPoint as a PDF on the website, so you're more than welcome to take a little bit of a deeper dive in if you'd like to. You're more than welcome to give me a call or contact me. The third assessment is reported here is your science assessment. Now again, science assessment is given to students in grades 5, 8, and 11. It's a slight change from what they historically did. It is a comprehensive assessment, especially in grade 11. Many years ago, those of us who may have been in high school or involved in the school district may remember it was the end of course biology test. The state decided to get rid of the biology test and now put a test that assesses all standards for students in grade 11. The science assessment was given, and these are your reportable results. The science assessment, I do want to just qualify, is not a high school graduation requirement. It is an achievement requirement and designed as more of an internal measure to take a look at what we're doing for labs, for coursework, for achievement, and for improvement as we move forward. These again, the science assessment is not assessed on five categories, only 4 categories. So you are advanced or proficient, or you're limited or minimal. Breaks it down by race. Next one breaks it down by program, same as all the other ones, and the final one does break it down by gender in the science assessments. So each one of these assessments, we have the data. The data is pretty straightforward. These assessments that we put up here did have a comparison from 23 to 24, and that really is where we've gone with the New Jersey Student Learning Assessments. I included the access for ELLs, and know you got this report from Mrs. Cologne in August, but I did include one additional slide I do want to bring attention to. I'm not going to go into the background for the access for ELLs, but the district data was reported by Mrs. Cologne in August. I did include it here because typically it is in my report, but this is your historical data, and I thought that this was actually relatively important to actually bring forward. And you will notice that the number of students that are tested for the Access 2.0 has been significantly increasing since we returned from COVID. And we still increase each year. And as you noted, last year, the number of students that were tested were 473 out of our population. So I did want to put historical data in there.
Oh, wow.
Historical
Yeah,
reference.
I did look at this one. Yeah.
So that's that.
I'm glad you
Dynamic
pointed
learning
that out.
maps, these are assessments that are given to our more severe handicapped students. They do not take the New Jersey Student Learning Assessment. They'll take their own dynamic learning map assessment. There are 4 categories here: emerging, approaching, at target, or advanced. Once again, this is a little bit different in terms of the numbers, so that are reportable. We did put that up there for these particular students. If you put it as emerging, approaching target, at target, and advanced. One thing to remember is, like I said, these students are your more significantly challenged students, so they do grow consistently throughout the program. We do find that many of our students do progress through the program as they continue to. Our high high school graduation rate is as follows here. Last year's class, 94.1%, not too bad.
That's great.
I can't give you the the state high school graduation percentage because it hasn't been calculated yet. There's still some students being appealed. There's some cases around the state that are still being appealed. So we're always going to be 1 year behind on the graduation rate. Last year's graduation rate was an NA. We were 92.5. The state did report a 91.1%. So we were above the high school graduation rate for 214. Right now, we're at 94.1 at 193 graduates. So we'll continue to monitor this and provide this information and data for you because I think it's important to show that our students are graduating from high school at a good rate. Your comparison data, I did put that up there because I did really want to put out that we have some interesting, and this is where I'll really point out the math numbers because you'll see the significant differences from 23 to 24. In this case, for mathematics in middle school, you'll note that there was 15% proficient, 4 and 5, in 23, and 37%. It's not that we necessarily grew 22% and then we dropped significantly at the high school. It was where the students were reported when the data was given to us. This is more indicative of what we have because this last year's students who took the Algebra 1 exam in middle school were now reported as middle school students. In the other slide, we ended up getting the data disaggregated and we were able to combine all of the students that took a single test, and that's why there's a difference in the numbers. So it's not that the numbers are different, it's where they're reported. So I just wanted to point that out because there is a significant difference in there. Many of our other numbers are relatively stagnant, if you would, but it doesn't mean that we're satisfied with that. We'll get to that in a second. So moving forward towards improvement, there's a few notes that I have on here. Last year we had a significant professional development initiative in guided reading and our literacy programs. So we spent a lot of time, a lot of resources. We had professional development trainers come in and really work with our teaching staff to change, or not change, but kind of refresh. It's almost like a reading 2.0, if you would. Our teachers to help them provide some different strategies for the students. I'm going to put my glasses on because I can't see anything. So excuse me one second. We did purchase some level literacy materials, and I'll get to that in a little bit more. We did purchase quite a few guided reading books, independent reading books. We're really looking at pushing the literacy to allow our students to read what they want to read educationally, read for fun, read for enjoyment, yet read for a purpose. And I think that's one of the things that we really spent some time doing. We spent some professional development, time on professional development in personal and professional areas. We actually trained a number of our staff in the Wilson Literacy Program, and we have a number of Wilson classes currently going on in our elementary and our primary school. Actually, we expanded it to the middle school, if I remember correctly. We have now a number of these. The Wilson program, I know Dr. Zurch can speak a lot better to it than I can, but the Wilson program really works with our neediest kids to really provide interventions at the level that they truly need. One of the other things that's not on here, and we are looking into some more professional development with Rutgers University as well, we made revisions to our ESL program and our ASI program. We looked at what was happening and how it was operating last year and how the kids were getting receiving services. And we decided to do a full revamp, and we decided to really have our teachers push into the classrooms and provide additional assistance to the classroom teachers while the students are doing their work themselves. We found that, and we know that, as teachers are in the classroom and students are engaged in the classroom, more happens. There's more live and exciting learning that happens versus taking a group of students out of the classroom. Now, there is time where taking the students out of the classroom to provide small group instruction is effective and it is relevant, and we do address that. But we're really revamping to try to get our teachers into the classrooms with the classroom teacher, provide those alternate assessments, provide that revised instruction, and really work with our students at a different level. So it is a new initiative that we started this year. The initial feedback from the staff, really enjoy having another hand in the room. So now you're having, instead of one teacher addressing all their groups, you have multiple teachers addressing multiple groups, multiple times a day, and providing intervention, not just speaking the same language on the same topic at the same time, is providing targeted instruction and revisions to our students that need academic help or those that need, or those who are gifted. So those are a few things that we've done towards improvement. So next slide, as I always do, question. I gotta change that, Grant.
I have a question. You mentioned all these tests that the state, have our students take, state of New Jersey.
Yes.
You mentioned things that you probably do with those results, and put resources where you need.
Yes.
Does the state do anything with those results? Like, does the state say the school is failing, they have to do this or that, or the state stays after that?
Well, the state provides us with the information, data,
I don't think they do anything with the data, the state.
we are evaluated by QSAC every single year. We are evaluated by QSAC, which is quality control, and they will evaluate us based on instructional program, on curriculum, and there's multiple, at one of the components.
And based upon those tests, if you have any difficulties with that evaluation, you decide the students are failing school, like,
Their takeover is way down the line, way
but I
down.
mean, since I don't know whether those numbers are good or bad, there's just numbers there. And I asked him, you know, how to compare that with other schools, he said, you really can't. So I want to know whether those schools in any way will affect us.
We don't compare our numbers with any other school, but
Okay, so what you're telling me,
Thank you. We receive our scores, and when we receive our scores, we are between our scores and the district. So that's it. So I don't know what any of the districts are doing. They have to do the same thing that I do. So there is no comparison with other districts.
but there's no feedback from the state that there's any issue.
We will receive information.
But there isn't much of a change in the previous years. For previous years, we got nothing. Just go home, go home. I mean, except our own internal.
Yes, we have internal evaluations and those things.
No problem.
Do any board members have any questions? Anyone else from the audience, perhaps? Okay. Dr. Zurcher?
Okay, thank you. And with that presentation
Thank you,
concludes
Doctor.
my report.
Thanks, Dr.
What was that?
I should thank you, Doctor.
Oh, didn't hear that. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Trevisano, Dr. Zurcher. And at this time, is there a motion for the approval of the superintendent's monthly report?
Move the superintendent's report is read.
Motion by Vice President Nielsen.
Second.
And a second by Mr. Basak. Any other questions or comments on the superintendent's
I have
report?
a couple of comments. I was at the Early Learning Center last night. Parents love it. Everybody had a smile on their face. The kids love it. You know, just couldn't, there was not a bad thing said about it. They love the brightness of it, the cleanliness of it, the staff loves it. The kids were showing their parents all the great things that they get to do, the big spaces and everything. So it's definitely a great addition to our district. But then again, on a bad note, my wife and I were here for high school back-to-school night, and there were times when we were the only two people in the class. So, and Ms. Lella also. And I don't know if everybody has seen it. There were a couple postings on social media. Jean Marie Lang Lucas in the South River Public Schools thing. I don't know if any of you follow her, but her son is in the middle school, and she attended back-to-school night. And she says all the classrooms were neat, decorated, the teachers were welcoming, warm, friendly. She's actually sad for her older children that never gave them the opportunity to go to school in town and live and meet people in town that live. Her other children all attended parochial school. It was one of the things that she had to say. It's a great review, considering how many people come onto social media and talk bad about the district and everything in it. Here's a woman who, her and her husband decided to take their son out of parochial school 3 years ago and put him into the school system here, and how he's flourishing. He's doing much better than he did. He's doing much better than his siblings did in the other schools. And I think it just speaks highly to our staff from the top all the way down to our teachers. I will attempt to send this to Dr. Zurcher if she doesn't have it, and maybe we can send it out to an email so all the other members can read what she has to say.
That'd be great, thank you.
And that's all I have to say for tonight on that matter.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. Anything else from any of the other board members? All in favor?
Aye.
Superintendent's report passes. At this time, we are now going to open up the meeting for the reception of visitors, and the public may address agenda items only. Of course, as always, there will be a public session toward the end of the meeting, but if you would like to address any agenda items, please come to the podium, state your name and address, and please keep your comments to a 10-minute time limit for agenda items. On first call.
My name is Norman Scheinberg, I live at 24 New Street. I'm not sure if it's an agenda item, but you talked about it. That's not, what you're referring to is not the parent-teacher conference, was it?
No.
No, that's different.
Yes.
Okay. And you mentioned that you were about the only one there. Was this true of all the classrooms or just where you were, that no parents were there?
Well, just the classrooms that my children, the teachers that my children have, there were a couple that we really.
My two kids that went here, and I believe that the classrooms that we went into were fairly full. And that's where the teachers, I think, talked about what they were teaching, what they were going to do, things like that.
That's
And
exactly what that was
the
for.
parents sat in the students' desks over there, and the teacher spoke to them.
Yes.
Okay, I'm surprised. Like I said, when my kids went there, it seemed to be pretty much full. I would say probably 2/3 of the parents were there in the rooms. But then again, that's only 2 classrooms, because there's only 1, so I'm not sure. But okay, that was kind of my question.
Thank you. Anyone else from the audience on first call? Second call? Third call? We will close this public portion, and we will move on for our consent resolution. Mr. Rosa.
Yes. The South River Board of Education, by means of a consent resolution, adopt various resolutions of a routine and non-controversial nature at one time, whereas the below listed resolutions are hereby adopted by the said Board of Education in whole, as if the same were individually acted upon it. And those are under Superintendent of Schools 3.2, under Finance 8.1 through 8.24, under Instruction 9.1 through 9.7, under Negotiations 10.1, under Policy and Legislation 11.1 through 11.3, under Human Resources 12.1 through 12.25, under Safety and Risk Management 13.1 through 13.3.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion on the consent
Move
resolution
the consent resolution.
by Vice President Nielsen? Is there a second on that?
Second.
Second by Ms. Sadowski. Are there any of these items that anyone needs to abstain on or have read separately? Seeing none, Mr. Rosa, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Bazak?
Yes.
Mr. Budson?
Yes.
Mrs. Bush?
Yes.
Mrs. Byrne?
Yes.
Mrs. Lau?
Yes.
Mr. Nielsen?
Yes.
Mrs. Sadowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Urbanek?
Yes,
Motion passed.
thank you. Okay, at this time, we're going to go into our committee reports, starting with our athletics and extracurricular. Mr. Budson.
There's nothing on the agenda for this month.
Can I speak to, I attend the football games. My boy plays, and we go all throughout the county. I have to give props, if you will, or however they say it nowadays. James Stewart is our announcer for football games. Mr. Stewart is enthusiastic. He makes sure that every child who is in on the play, whether they are from South River or whether from the opposing team, is acknowledged, whether they make a tackle, whether, a touchdown. I've gone to games, and you would think that the only team on the field was the team that we were playing that night. There are schools that don't say anything about any of the other children. Jim runs up and down the sidelines with his microphone in his hand. He makes sure that he gets a list from the coaches, the opposing coaches, of all the students, and he's a godsend for you know, it's nice for a parent to sit there and hear their child's name called out, and to hear the crowd cheer when one of our guys does something good. And even the other opposing team, when they hear their child's name, you can hear, you know, the few people that do come to these games anymore, you can hear them cheer. And I said, Jim is a great individual. I know him outside football world personally. He really takes it to heart of how much these games mean to the people that attend them. And I just want to acknowledge him and what a great job he does. That's all I need for tonight, Madam President.
He's been doing it for a long time.
Does Pop Warner's on Sunday
Yep,
too, and he
yep.
doesn't have any kids playing Pop Warner.
Nope.
You're absolutely right. I've seen him at the games, and he just moves up and down that field like it's the best thing that he's going to be doing all day. And I
Yep.
almost don't even want to think about getting a press box, because that would just contain him. And he wouldn't be able to move around and be watching all the plays as closely as he does.
He does a wonderful job.
He
I just
really
wanted to
does. You're
acknowledge
right.
him tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. Buildings and grounds, then, would you please continue?
You all saw Mr. Blage's report, in the monthly report. The new multi-field, turf field is still a little bit under construction. October 7th, we hope to have our first soccer game. And to those on social media who, of course, have nothing good to say, yes, there will be a backstop on the softball side of the field. Yes, there's going to be a scoreboard. That'll be on the northern side of the field. So again, as you see out here in the crowd, only Mr. Scheinberg is here tonight. Nobody has a question at a board meeting, or they don't call the board office, but they feel no problem in going to social media and saying things that they shouldn't. But yes, there will be extra fencing. The field looks great. You know, can't wait to go down and watch a couple of games. Softball, soccer, and baseball will be played there. That's all I have for tonight.
Thank you. Finance, Ms. Lowe.
Thank you, Ms. Urbanek. I'd like to summarize in a couple of sentences the Finance Committee report and then read our statement. So the agenda includes several approval items for the upcoming 24-25 school year, covering various grants, contracts, and services. Key items include the approval of preschool facilities, expansions, and IDA grant applications, as well as contracts for dual enrollment, alternative education services, and professional development. Additionally, there are contracts for yearbook services, graduation products, furniture for the Elementary Media Center. Changes and approvals for ongoing construction projects and financial transfers are also on the agenda, reflecting a comprehensive approach to enhancing educational facilities and services. So now, having said that, the Finance Committee, after review of all items on this month's agenda and upon recommendation of the superintendent, recommends approval of the items 8.1 through 8.20, with additional items 8.21 through 8.24 on the agenda as listed, including routine items which we covered under consent.
Thank you. Instruction, Ms. Bush.
Yes, I have a couple things. I want to speak to Dr. Trevisano's monthly report. At the start of the school year, we welcomed over 30 new staff members to the South River family during our August orientation that familiarized them with the school and the district procedures. Professional development sessions introduced new safety protocols. We trained staff on the Genesis evaluation platform, streamlined lesson plans and administrative functions. Additionally, we expanded our curriculum, implementing intervention programs to meet diverse student needs, and revised over 130 courses to be aligned with the New Jersey Department of Educational Standards. With regards to agenda items, they included several items for discussion and approval relative to the 24-25 school year, such as professional development and travel expenses, field trips out of district tuition, contracts with Walgreens and Robert Wood Johnson University Hospital for community-based services and safety programs. Additionally, agenda items addressed inclusion of district observers and interns, and most recently, our district testing schedule for this school year, plus Dr. Trevisano's presentation that he just did for us this evening. So I know you said something already, Kevin, but thank you again. That was excellent. So with that being said, the instruction committee, after review of all of the items on this month's agenda, and upon the recommendation of the superintendent, recommends the approval of items 9.1 through 9.6, with the additional item of 9.7 on the agenda as listed, including routine items. That's all I have.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Under negotiations, we do have one item, and that's to approve a sidebar agreement with the SREA. So the negotiation committee, after review of all items on this month's agenda, and upon recommendation of the superintendent, recommends approval of the item 10.1 with no additional items on the agenda as listed, including the routine items. Our next committee is our Policy and Legislation. Ms. Byrne.
Thank you. We have 3 items this evening. The Policy and Legislation Committee, after review of all the items on this month's agenda and upon recommendation of the superintendent, recommends approval of the items 11.1 through 11.3 with no additional items on the agenda as listed, including routine items.
Thank you. Under Human Resources, Mr. Bazak.
Thank you, Ms. Urbanek. The Human Resources Committee, after review of all items on this month's agenda and upon recommendation of the superintendent, recommends approval of the items 12.1 through 12.21 with additional items 12.22 through 12.25 on the agenda as listed, including routine items. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Our Safety and Risk Management Committee, Ms. Sadowski.
Thank you. The Safety and Risk Management Committee, after review of all items on this month's agenda and upon recommendation of the superintendent, recommends approval of items 13.1 through 13.2 with additional item 13.3 on the agenda as listed, including routine items. Thank you.
Thank you. And our School Community Relations Committee, Ms. Byrne.
There are no items this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Our School Board Borough Council Liaison Committee, Vice President Nielsen.
Nothing to report tonight, Madam President.
Our PTA Liaison Committee, Ms. Sadowski.
Thank you. There's a couple of items I just want to highlight that both the primary and elementary schools, they will be celebrating Hispanic Heritage in the month of October. They are also both hosting book fairs this month, and both the primary and elementary school are selling spiritware, different types of spiritware, and elementary is also selling Big Rams blankets. They're bringing, remember the Big Rams blankets? Yeah, they're bringing them back.
It's been a long
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, so.
Like the lawn things?
You know, the big blankets that they had, like when I was in high school, they were gray.
yeah.
I remember they were like heavy.
That was a long time.
That was a long time, so they're bringing them back.
Yep.
Thanks.
The blankets are back.
They're coming back, yes. Primary school has their fall festival at the end of the month. They are also hosting a Stock the Lounge, donations from the parents so they can stock the teachers' lounges with snacks and drinks. And they are actually all selling pre-sale yearbooks already. So if anybody's interested in purchasing their yearbook in September. And membership. Membership is being conducted using MemberHub. The links to the individual PTA sites are listed in ERAM as well as on their Facebook page. And I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Budzen, our South River Public Library Liaison.
Upcoming events is October 15th. You're having a Halloween and at a kids craft at 5 p.m. And at 6 p.m. you're having adults Halloween craft. Trunk and Treat will be at the library October 26th at 2 p.m. in conjunction with the Recreation Department. November 5th to the 7th, they're having their annual book sale. And that's all I have.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to ask our superintendent if she would introduce our new student board representative.
Yes, Calvin is here joining us. And
No.
you don't have to stand. She's here to join us today. She does have a report for us this evening. We shared that she's off to a good start this school year and excited to be a senior. So we look forward to hearing her report.
A new club was added this year called Bring Change to Mind Club. It focuses on improving student mental health. A couple of activities have been planned for the following school weeks. Okay. And today was the last year for float building, and many students are preparing for Spirit Games tomorrow and the float parade.
Awesome.
That's it.
Thank you, and welcome to the board. I think you'll find us very welcoming, and if you have any questions, just see the superintendent. Thank
Like
you.
pizza, 1 Monticello away, I just bought 10 pies. That's where the seniors are at.
Is there any old or new business to come before the board at this time? And do we have a report from our attorney?
No report tonight.
Okay. Then we will pay the bills. Ms. Lowe.
The Finance Committee recommends that all bills presented having been certified by the School Business Administrator Board Secretary be paid as listed, and I so move.
We have a motion by
Second.
Ms. Lowe and a second by Vice President Nielsen. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The bills will be paid. Okay, at this time, we are going to open up the meeting for the reception of visitors. And this is the time where the public may address any concern or comment that they have for the board. Please state your name and address, and please keep your comments to a 10-minute time limit.
Norman Scheinberg, I live at 24 New Street. Let me know about 2 minutes beforehand, I run out of time.
Will do.
At the last meeting, I ended it. I asked, why did you place on security guard? At the last meeting, I asked, why did you place on security guards in the schools? And the answer I got from Dr. Woodruff was, ask the police, they're the experts. And if you were about to give me an answer, she said I could ask the police, the experts. So what I did, I sent I know the answer, you all know the answer. And I sent an email anyway to the police, and the email said, several years ago, your police department assigned police officers to South River schools. Did this happen because of a request from the school board, town council, or did the police department request it? He sent a few sentences describing what police officers do, but the pertinent part of it was, is this effort was in response to a request for police presence within the schools by both the parents and students, which you all kind of already know, but that's why that happened. Okay, so the experts did not request these police officers. The police had 100 years to place officers in the schools. We've had schools like this for 100 years, and they didn't do it. Why didn't the experts, why didn't the police place police officers for 100 years in the school? I showed that in the 1990s, we actually had more deaths nationwide in the schools. Crime was much higher in the 1990s than now, and they never did it. Why not? Okay. I mean, we know why not, because there's no crime in the school. There's nothing police officers to do in the school. There's no robberies. The number of students that are killed is near zero. Forget what goes on the outside and so on. At any rate, so why was it done? It was clearly the irrational fear of parents that their children would be shot in school that led to the placement of armed security guards in schools at significant expense. We know that. The parents want it. But the parents didn't look at the data. They didn't analyze it. They didn't look at the various shooting scenarios, the narratives, and so on. They didn't speak to experts, whatever. Anyways, as I pointed out before, no student has ever been killed with a gun at a New Jersey K-7 campus while the school was in session. Students have shot and wounded, luckily not one, but about 500 have been shot and killed unrelated to school in just the last 25 years alone in New Jersey. If 500 were killed outside of school, none in school, at the ratio of people that are generally shot to die, we could expect probably about 2,000 students were shot outside of school in New Jersey, and 9 in the school. Fortunately, none were killed. There's actually no safer place for children in school by far. Schools are just incredibly safe when you consider that all the students are in school. I mean, there's a few that are homeschools, and they spend much of their day in school. And no one has been killed in the school. Yet we're going to be putting 15% of the municipal police force in the school. With about 30 policemen, we're putting about 4 or 5 or so, including director of security in school, where there is no crime, and it's a very large expense. There's no rational reason to have armed security officers in school. We never had it for 100 years, and nothing is different now than it used to be, other than the irrational fear of the parents. And sociologists have a description as to why this is so and what's going on. I'll get into that another time. I also previously presented several different types of studies from multiple sources that concluded that there is no evidence that an armed security guard prevents school shootings or lessens casualties. In fact, I now come across two studies, I presented one to you, I came across another one, that paradoxically came to the result that there are more casualties when an armed officer is present, and none showed otherwise. Why should there be more casualties when officers are present? People who wrote these papers have some speculation, but none of the speculation is any good, it's simply unknown. One paper said there's 2.8 times, it's in there, it's what I gave you the handout, 2.8 times more casualties. The other one said 2.5. I mean, you could speculate. One thought it's just because the officer's gun. Another one speculated that maybe those schools are more dangerous. But at least it's not reducing casualties. The other study shows that it doesn't reduce the number of shootings either. But, you know, at one point I was going to make fun of your clear backpacks by suggesting bulletproof backpacks or bulletproof vests. I mean, it was a joke. But apparently the New York Times has done it for me. I just came across an article the other day. This is the craziness. Maybe some of you guys saw it in the New York Times the other day. Here it is. Grabbing school gear in case of shootings. This is the guy who's putting on, and this is his Blue Street book. And when he has his bulletproof inserts for pencil cases. Then he has other bulletproof shields for students, bulletproof inserts for the backpacks. You can get students bulletproof backpacks. By the way, in the end, bulletproof backpacks will be a lot cheaper than your officers. I mean, up front, the cost will be much greater. But considering the fact that you have to replace the bulletproof shield after it got hit by a bullet, and probably one would get hit every few thousand years by a bullet, that's the rate of school shootings inside the school, you'd only have to replace one every few thousand years, so in the end it would be very cheap, because it's an order joke. I'm not seriously saying it. But what kind of nonsense is this? Bulletproof clipboards. And the person who sells them, some company says he sold thousands of them to parents. The parents are off the wall. Bulletproof backpacks, bulletproof vests, and so on. In fact, it goes on and says that, this is the New York Times, they quote a fellow by the name of Dewey Cornell, an expert in classroom safety at the University of Virginia, this is the New York Times, who has trained threat assessment teams in thousands of schools. He says that school security measures and so-called target hardening are extraordinarily expensive and so forth. There is no scientific evidence that they make schools safer. And this is what I found from expert after expert. Whether it was the National Threat Assessment Center run by the Secret Service, whether it's the people who run through the K-12 school shooting database. What's happened is all this stuff, the security guards and the equipment, is now a multi-billion-dollar industry. Considering if every school had a security guard, how much it would cost and how much this has. In fact, they're even selling bulletproof collapsible safe rooms for students, where students could go in and be bulletproof. When I went to school, I never thought of my kids being unsafe in school. I've asked other friends who sent their kids to school in the 90s, in the early 2000s, did you worry about the safety of your kids in school? And the answer was no, we never thought about it. The schools are just extraordinarily safe. They're not just safe, they're extraordinarily safe. They are the safest place in the entire nation for schools, and the kids are there. And now the CNN did a poll and asked students, are they worried about the safety of their kids in school? 40% said yes. After the Georgia shooting, one person they interviewed on CNN, of course it's only one person, said this is another reason not to send your kids to school. They're so unsafe. And it's up to people like you to convince the people out there that the schools are safe, not to convince them that it's unsafe by having clear backpacks and armed guards. But whenever they say to you, why don't you do more, you say, show us the evidence if there's anything that needs to be done. No one has died in a New Jersey school. This is just crazy. Eventually, this moral panic will die down and go away. But I don't know how long, the last generation or more. Okay, the other thing I want to mention is perhaps the 400-pound elephant in the room. It recently wasn't. You want to say something? Probably did. Recently, the 400-pound elephant in the room. There was recently that school shooting in Barrow, Georgia, where the SROs supposedly were the heroes of the day and stopped the shooting and saved all those children. Well, I looked at that in detail. There are interviews with the sheriff that presented a detailed timeline and other sources. And you think about it. Those, by the way, in other instances, I'm going to back up a bit. There are a number of other instances where there have been SROs. There has been one in Columbine. There was one in Parkland. The Parkland one went on trial. There was one in...
2 minutes.
There was one in Oxford, Michigan. And there's civil suits there. The body cam showing him doing nothing during the school shooting till the police came. There's Uvalde. We know about Uvalde. And so on. Every major school shooting like that, the SROs have done nothing. In most school shootings, they can do nothing because they're over in a second or two. They're one-on-one shootings. They're shootings that take place in the, when a student walks into school, or ambush shootings, drive-by shootings. In fact, last year, half the shootings took place in the parking lot, escalation of violence. Mostly rural areas, the kids probably got into an argument, somebody went to their car and pulled out a gun and shot them, bang, bang, it's over. But even those mass shootings that I mentioned, they did nothing. So how about the one with Barrow County? The sheriff, according to the sheriff, the whole shooting lasted about 52 seconds. And we do know that 13 people were shot. So obviously, what they had, their alarm systems, the SROs didn't prevent students from getting shot. Did it reduce the number of students that are being shot? Well, remember, those SROs didn't fire a single shot. Now imagine the SROs come upon a shooter who has a gun, who's putting students in danger. You think they're going to ask him, well, do you want to surrender? I think you should put the gun down. They're going to immediately shoot him. So obviously, when they came upon him, either they couldn't shoot him or he was no longer shooting. He has a gun in his hand. He could turn that gun, it's a rifle, it's an assault rifle, at these officers in a second and shoot them. So their life is in danger. So if they could have shot him, they would have shot him. So either he was just no longer shooting or they could not shoot him. The answer is they really couldn't shoot him. The sheriff says they approached him from 200 feet away. 200 feet away is the long end of that hall up to where the entrance of the school is, probably beyond that. Go when you leave today, look down the long entrance of the hall, and think of somebody with a handgun. You're a police officer shooting somebody from 200 or 220 feet away. I mean, chance of hitting him are slim to none. But he has a rifle. And if those, he said they were running towards it. If they ran towards it, it would take about 7 seconds for them to approach within about 100 feet. And during that 7 seconds, he could easily aim that assault rifle at those officers, take them out like that, a bullet between the eyes.
And that's 10 minutes.
Okay, so obviously they didn't stop anything. He simply stopped shooting. So it's another case where nothing was done. They are certainly heroes, being very brave and running at somebody who has an assault rifle, not knowing what happened. I don't want to take anything away from this, but they didn't stop the shooting. I just want to mention one thing. Next time, you've asked me this, you've asked me this, whether I'm going to come up with some recommendations. Eventually, I will come up with recommendations,
Okay.
which you've probably thought of them already. But I'm hoping with all the data and information I'm giving you that someday you might implement these other recommendations. It's nothing really revolutionary, it's a revelation.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the audience wishing to speak? Please give us your name, your address, and please keep your comments to 10 minutes.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, my name is Reverend Malcolm. I live in Westminster Boulevard in Brooklyn, New Jersey. And I just wanted to bring a simple request for the members of the board about students playing two sports or not, or less. The reason I bring this up, a few of my volleyball players, I should say, do play two sports as well. One of those sports, of course, is volleyball, and the other sport is cheerleading. A lot of times, these young ladies are stressed about playing two sports. Now, I know it's a school policy, school rule, that they are allowed to play cheerleading and do another sport as well. About 2 weeks ago, one of my players was so stressed that she couldn't make a decision on whether to stay for volleyball or to go to cheerleading. She starts on our JV team, and she's on the varsity team for cheerleading. You know, she made a decision to stay to play volleyball, but at the end of the day, she was crying so much, she hyperventilated. She was stressed out that she'd never been kicked off of the cheerleading varsity squad. And she's not the only one. All the other cheerleaders on the volleyball team is the exact same thing that they go to day in and day out. Especially for the girls that are on the varsity volleyball team, they're also in the varsity cheerleading squad. And time, they have a conflict of schedule with the cheerleading, conflict of schedule with games and things of such. And as I said, I know it's a school policy that they are allowed to play cheerleading and another sport, but I'm asking if there's a possibility in a way going forward, in future time, that could be something that can be changed, because I do care about all my girls. These are my girls, they're like my kids, and to see them cry and stress out about getting kicked off of one team or the other, you know, it hurts me, especially 2 weeks ago when that young lady was crying so hard. You know, I ended up going and talking to Coach Jamie about it, and, you know, we kind of have a plan of, you know, what day they have practice and things as such. But as I look at my schedule, we have a lot of games on those days, like Coach Jamie and I said. But it's a lot of stress on the young ladies. And as I said, you know, I look at them as my kids, and I'm gonna speak as a father, it hurts me to see that they need to make a decision. Do I stay playing varsity cheerleading or do I stay playing volleyball? And as I said, I know it's a school rule and school policy, but if there's something in the future that we can change to say, we're only allowing students to play one sport, because I know with the climate and culture, environment that we have, the mental health of the students are important. And, if they're stressed about playing two sports, that's not good for them at all. And as I said, me seeing my student, my girl, my player cry, it hurt me, But I understood that she loved both sports, and understood that she wanted to do both. And as I said, I know it's a school policy, but I'm just asking if in future times, if the topic come up again, that we allow them only to play one sport. So that's what I want to bring to the board.
Thank you.
Thank you for your feedback. I would recommend if you have a concern, that you definitely want to follow that proper chain of command and go see your principal, discuss that concern with your principal, discuss that concern with the athletic director, and really make your points at their level so that they can address and respond to your concern.
I did, at 1 year, a few years ago, did bring it up to the athletic director, and he, of course, said the policy is that they are allowed to do cheerleading and another sport. I haven't ever brought it up to the new principals, so that is right. You're right, I should know better as a Marine about the cheerleading. As I said, I did speak to Carl Buckley about it a few years ago, but after seeing my young lady cry and the girl's stress, I kind of, as a father, as I said, I had to speak up, so I just wanted to bring it. But I will, ma'am, I will go speak to the principal and Carl again about it. So thank you for bringing to remembrance what I need to do.
Thank you.
Very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Malcolm. Anyone else in the public wishing to speak on first call, second call, third call? This portion of the public session is closed, and having no executive session, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Nielsen.
Motion by Vice President Nielsen, second by Ms. Lowe. All in favor? Aye. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.